Have you ever wished you could be unshakable, someone who can't be moved, someone who doesn't care about criticism, rejection, loss, or betrayal? Have you ever imagined the day you finally stop feeling that quiet pain, that anguish that keeps eating at you? Even while you act like everything is fine on the outside, maybe you're exhausted from trying to please everyone, from keeping up an image that demands strength every moment, when the truth is, all you ever wanted was to rest, just for a second, from the pressure of being untouchable. But let me tell you something maybe no one has dared to say to you. As long as you keep trying to avoid pain, it will keep controlling you. As long as you keep trying to numb yourself, to protect yourself, to hide, you will stay trapped. A hostage to whatever happens around you, to the words that cut you, to the actions that let you down, to the silences that destroy you from the inside. And this isn't weakness. This is the reality for most people. The only difference is that some people hide it better than others. Carl Jung, one of the greatest names in depth psychology, said that we are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become. And that is where the key is. It's not about hiding from the world. It's not about becoming cold, indifferent, or untouchable. It's about integrating. It's about bringing into the light everything that is currently affecting you in the dark. Because real strength isn't the absence of pain. It's full awareness of who you are, even while you're bleeding. If you've made it this far, it's not an accident. This video is for you, who are tired of being hurt by everything and everyone. It's for you, who feel you're always at an emotional disadvantage, like other people have a power over you, and you don't even understand why. I want to show you. It doesn't have to stay this way, but to do that, you will have to face truths that may hurt, and maybe, for the first time, that pain will be what sets you free. Let's begin. You believe what hurts you is out there, in what people do, in words chosen without care, in the abandonments you've lived through, in betrayals you never saw coming. But the truth is harsh. None of that truly has the power to hurt you, unless there is already an open wound inside you. What hurts you isn't what others do. It's what those moments awaken in you. It's the meaning you give it, the story you repeat to yourself. It's the old trauma you never faced, the emptiness you cover with strength, with pride, with that desperate need to look well adjusted. Jung shows us that the pain we feel from the outer world is often just a mirror of what has not yet been integrated within us. That's why some people move through devastating events and still keep clarity, while others break from a single comment. It's not about what happens, it's about where it lands. And here is an uncomfortable truth. You still suffer this much, because somewhere inside, you believe you can control how the world should treat you. You're still trying to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, as if that guarantees no one will hurt you. But control is an illusion, and as long as you cling to it, you live in constant tension, trying to predict the unpredictable, trying to avoid the inevitable. Do you want to stop suffering? Then stop guarding yourself from suffering. What you need isn't more control, it's more awareness. As long as you believe people must change, so you can stop feeling pain, you will stay enslaved to what they do. Your freedom begins the moment you understand that whatever comes from outside only has power if it finds an echo within you. And that is exactly where the real battlefield is, the unconscious. What you do not see, what you do not understand, what you do not master, will master you. And that is what we will enter next. Get ready to go one level deeper, because that is where real transformation begins. If this is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. The biggest lie you've been given is that you are in control of your life. Wake up, because you're not. At least not while you keep living on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling without knowing where it comes from, making decisions, then later destroying them. Carl Jung said it clearly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And that is exactly what is happening to you right now. The pain you feel, the anger that erupts from nowhere, the sadness that floods you without warning, none of it is random. They are signals coming from parts of you that were forgotten, ignored, repressed. Jung called this hidden territory the unconscious. And it isn't just a fog of vague thoughts. It is an active force. A whole system of memories and trauma, desires and fears, things you don't want to face, yet they keep deciding what you feel and how you act. You wonder why certain words destroy you, while others don't seem to care, because those words strike sensitive places in you that are still alive, and if they are still alive, it's because you have never truly confronted them. You only push them under the psychological rug, and now you keep tripping over them, Jung said. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. And what have you been doing? Judging yourself, repressing yourself, silencing yourself, as if that would fix anything. The truth is, the unconscious doesn't vanish because you ignore it. It just finds more dangerous ways to show itself. In toxic relationships you repeat, in cycles of self-sabotage you can't break, in anxiety and fear, that rise exactly when life seems to be going well. This isn't bad luck, it's your unconscious trying to wake you up. But you keep choosing sleep. Do you want to be someone who isn't hurt anymore? Then stop running from what is inside you. Because as long as you don't know you're unconscious, you will be a puppet of your emotions. And the more you try to defend yourself from outer pain, the more exposed you become to inner pain. But there is a way out, and it isn't in fighting, and it isn't in defending, it is in integration. Because becoming untouchable is not an act of resistance, it is an act of deep knowing. That is what we'll see next. What does it truly mean to be unshaken? And why does that strength come not from armor, but from acceptance? Let's continue. Most people think the only way to avoid being hurt is to close themselves off. They build walls, put on masks, create emotional armor, and pretend nothing reaches them. They say, I don't care anymore, I couldn't care less. Nothing gets to me, but inside they're still bleeding and still corroding, because the problem was never feeling. The problem is not knowing what you feel, and not knowing why you feel it. And that only happens to those who still don't know themselves. Jung was exact when he said, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul, and that human soul, the one you keep hiding, behind a controlled and invulnerable, strong character, is screaming to be seen, becoming emotionally strong, has nothing to do with being cold. It has nothing to do with ignoring pain, avoiding conflict, or acting like you don't care. It has to do with integrating, with accepting, with bringing into the light. Everything you buried in the dark, you do not become untouchable. By building a barrier between yourself and the world, you become untouchable when you realize no one can touch what has already been embraced within you. When you integrate your shadows, your fears, your flaws, your insecurities, you stop reacting to everything. You observe, you choose. You're no longer an emotional puppet, and that is real freedom. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. Not what others want from you, not what you thought you needed to be accepted, but what rises from within, from the meeting of light and shadow, between ego and unconscious. Individuation is not a process of perfection, Jung said. It is a process of integration. You don't need to become a better person. You need to become whole. And here is the secret no one told you. The more you run from pain, the more it hunts you. The more you try not to be affected, the more fragile you become. But when you face your wounds, when you accept yourself with what is beautiful and ugly, noble and shameful, nothing outside has the power to dismantle you. But this path demands courage. Courage to look within, courage to drop the masks, courage to feel, because inside pain, the key to transformation is hidden. And that is what we will uncover next. How suffering, instead of being an enemy, can become the doorway to your real strength. Let's go deeper, and this time, without fear. You learned to hate pain when you were young. You were taught suffering is weakness, that crying is pointless, that feeling too much makes you vulnerable, and so you started running. Avoiding, denying. But the more you flee suffering, the more it follows you. And the worst part, it changes shape. It disguises itself as anxiety, as anger, as apathy, as boredom, as self-destructive urges. You don't even know how to explain. Ignored pain doesn't disappear. It just digs tunnels inside you, until one day, without warning, everything collapses. Jung saw suffering differently. He believed pain is the messenger of the soul, the alarm of the unconscious, the language of the self, the whole of who you are, trying to get your attention, he said. Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away, invite her to sit, offer her coffee and listen to what she has to say. But you don't listen. You silence yourself, distract yourself, stay busy, Numb yourself. You do whatever it takes to avoid looking at what matters most. What is this pain trying to show you? The truth is, suffering hurts this much because you're still at war with yourself. One part of you wants to grow. Another part wants everything to stay the same. Something inside you is calling for transformation, but your ego, addicted to control, tries to smother that call. And in that friction, pain is born, because change hurts. Growth hurts. Letting go of old beliefs hurts. Cutting toxic ties hurts. Allowing what no longer serves you to die hurts. All of that is mourning, an inner process of death and rebirth. But it is precisely in that ruined space that something new can be born. Because when everything in you is dismantled, when certainties crumble, when pain exposes your vulnerability, you can finally see who you are, without the layers of protection, without the performance, without the mask. And right there, suffering becomes sacred, because it brings you to your knees before the only thing that can free you, yourself. Jung knew this. He understood suffering is not a system failure. It is part of the process. Pain is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the journey toward individuation. The problem is that most people quit. Before they cross that dark valley, they run, they distract themselves, they return to the surface, but not you. If you've come this far, it's because you are ready to cross. And in the next part, we will understand how this crossing happens, how the path of individuation, no matter how lonely or brutal it feels, is what finally releases you. Let's continue. It gets deeper now. Few people have the courage to begin individuation, and even fewer can finish it. Because this path promises no comfort, offers no guarantees, and it does not protect your ego, it breaks it. Jung described individuation as becoming who you are, but that means, more than anything, unlearning who you think you are, and that hurts more than any rejection outside you, because you begin to see that so much of what defined you was an illusion. You are not your achievements, you are not your traumas, you're not the image you built. To be loved, respected, or admired, all of that was what you created to survive. But surviving isn't living, and individuation is life calling you. Beyond survival, it's when the unconscious starts pushing up. Everything you repressed, everything you hid, everything you distorted, until it reaches the surface. Individuation demands the dissolution of the persona, Jung wrote. It is merely a mask of collective convenience. In other words, you will have to tear off your own skin to discover what lies underneath, and it is here that you begin to become untouchable. Not because nothing affects you, but because you have already walked through the fire, you faced your monsters, you looked into the eyes of your shame, your neediness, your anger, and you said, I see you, and you no longer control me. It is this inner clarity, this lucidity in front of your own darkness, that gives you a strength that does not depend on approval, recognition, or control. You no longer need everyone to love you. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to appear strong, because you know who you are, and no one can take that from you. True emotional armor is not a shell, it is a core. It is the integration of all your parts into a center of consciousness. That remains unshaken in the storm. You may feel pain, but it doesn't break you. You may be hurt, but you don't lose yourself. Because you stopped reacting and became whole. You stopped living on the surface and began to live in the depths. But depth has a price, loneliness. Not because you will be alone, but because few people can walk with you here. Most are still trapped at the surface, in masks, in fear of feeling. And as you free yourself, you will naturally distance yourself. But that distance is not rejection. It is maturation. You don't pull away out of pride. You pull away because you no longer fit where you once hid. And that brings us to the final point. Consciousness as a shield. Because it isn't strength that protects you, it's clarity. That is what we will enter in the last part. Consciousness. As the only state where nothing, absolutely nothing, has power over you. Let's finish this crossing together. We are almost there. Now that you've come this far, something must be said. Very plainly, nothing, absolutely nothing, will protect you from external suffering. If you stay unconscious of what happens within you, the words will still hurt, rejection will still sting, loss will still drag you down, until you awaken. An awakening is not a magical moment. It is a daily choice. It is looking within, even when it hurts. It is taking responsibility for what you feel without blaming others, the past, or fate, Carl Jung said. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. You've spent your whole life resisting. The fear of not being enough, the emptiness of rejection, the pain of loneliness, the anguish of not being seen. And what did you do with it? You hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control everything. You tried to be perfect. You tried to be strong. And all of that brought you here. Exhausted. Tired of fighting the world and tired of fighting yourself. But now you understand. True emotional immunity is not hardness. It is clarity. It isn't about building armor. It is about expanding awareness. Because when you understand your triggers, your patterns, your wounds, the actions of others lose their power to destroy you. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you don't lose yourself. And that changes everything. What shields you is not avoiding life. It is entering it deeply. Those who live on the surface get hurt by every wave. Those who dive know there is silence, stability, and power below, and that is where you are going. And when you begin to live from that place, integration, presence, acceptance, the world may try to knock you down, but it no longer finds a place to hit you. If this video touched something in you, if something inside you is awakened, write here in the comments, I choose awareness. Let's start a movement of people who no longer want to survive by acting strong, but to live in truth. And don't forget, the next video is also part of this journey. It matters. You need to keep going. Real transformation only begins when you don't stop at the first step. See you there.